The presenting sponsor of Upmarket is Aereo, the best place to grow and manage your real estate media business online at aereo.com. That's ARYEO.com. Coming to you from the makeshift Upmarket studio in the beautiful Ojai Valley of Southern California, this is Upmarket, a podcast about the business of real estate photography and media. My name is Reed Fish. I'm the CEO and a co-founder of Upmarket Media, and another co-founder, Mark Corcoran, not here with us today. I don't know. I think he's having tea or something. I don't know. And producer Chelsea producing from afar today. But, you know, this is one of those wonderful PMRE episodes. And I am so happy that we are partnering with iGUIDE on our road to PMRE episodes this year, because iGUIDE, of course, has their tour to PMRE, which they are doing some amazing giveaways. And we're still in the running here for the major giveaways. Two all expenses paid trips to PMRE, and that is the Photo and Media for Real Estate Conference in Las Vegas in November 13th through 15th. iGUIDE wants to send you on a plane, in your car. They want to pay for your hotel. They want to pay for your ticket. I mean, everything is included in these giveaways. So get in there, and it's super simple. Go to goiguide.com/PMRE, and you're going to enter your email address, and that's going to put you on the mailing list for Upmarket Pod and iGUIDE. And then you got to go and follow Go iGUIDE and Upmarket Pod on Instagram. It's that simple. So go to goiguide.com/PMRE, and you are going to be entered to win one of those trips to PMRE. And here's the thing. Even if you don't win, no matter what, you are going to get a $50 coupon code, $50 off on your ticket to PMRE. So if you don't win, or even if you do win, you know, you can buy your tickets. Here's the thing. For everyone who's already bought their tickets and anyone who will buy their tickets before this giveaway is done and sometime in August, if you've already done that, iGUIDE will reimburse you the costs for your tickets and everything else. But in the meantime, so you want to get in there and get that $50 coupon code for PMRE, because look, as of this recording, PMRE is 65% sold out. And so I encourage you to go to PMREconference.com and book your ticket today. It's November 13th through 15th at the Palms in Las Vegas. We've been talking about it now for a couple months, and we're going to talk about it for a few months more. It is the place to go if you are a real estate media business owner. I cannot stress enough. And this year, it's even better, because not only do we have 2 full days of all the goodness that you've come to expect at PMRE, but there is an additional third day that focuses on commercial and architecture, photography, and video. Man, I am so excited for that third optional day. And I think one of the big draws of day 3 at the PMRE conference this year is going to be the gentleman I'm speaking with right now. It is cinematographer Chris Stacey. And Chris, you are a cinematographer. You're working in movies. You're working in TV, which I think is probably was maybe the dream of so many of our media professionals who are in our industry. So why the hell are you still doing real estate videos?
Well, so I'm not doing them as much anymore.
Oh, okay. All right.
But so when I'm home, I shoot them and I have fun doing them, and they're practice for me. And I enjoy the aesthetic of it. I enjoy the architecture of it. I enjoy real estate. So for me, it's a fun thing to do. And the level I do it at is a lot different than the, smaller homes. I don't think I probably do a real estate video for anything less than $10 million as far as the listing price.
Right.
And so it's a little different. And then the other thing I get, which a lot of other people don't get, is I get that creative ability. I work with a guy named Tim Smith, and I do all his videos. And so he's a big luxury real estate agent in Southern California. And he just gives me the run of the mill to do whatever crazy, fun, creative things I come up with.
And if I'm not mistaken, within our industry, that's what you're kind of famous for, is the videos you've done with Tim Smith. And there's been a few. We'll link to a few of those in the show notes. So if anyone is not familiar with them, they can give them a look. But the biggest one was was it the Benny or something? Is that what it's called? The Benny? I can't remember. I watched it the other day. The little boat.
Oh, the Teach Me How to Duffy. Yeah,
Duffy,
Teach Me How to Duffy.
Not Benny.
Yeah, the Benny, the Duffy. Yeah, I mean, I'd say that one probably put Tim on the map like nothing else did before, because it actually went internet viral, and a real estate video usually doesn't do that. Right. And this one we just posted it, and then it just kind of exploded. And it was just a really fun idea that I had, and I wrote a rap song for it. And I kind of had this creative idea. I don't know if I was high or whatever I was doing, thinking of stupid ideas.
Probably, right?
Yeah. And that's probably at the conference, some of the creative things we'll talk about is how to come up with ideas, how to brainstorm, and my kind of process to do that. But I had this idea.
Super high. But
yes. You know what? I don't like weed. I don't even do that. So for me, it's a different process. But this idea, I was like, I must have been high. But I had the idea to do this Duffy video. And we did a spoof off Teach Me How to Dougie, which was a famous video. Right. And I was like, there's these famous boats in Newport Beach and in kind of harbors that are called Duffy boats, and they're electric boats. They're unseaworthy vehicles, but every rich person drives them around. And, they have their wine and cocktails and have some fun. I was like, it would be really funny as opposed to Teach Me How to Dougie. We can have a bunch of out-of-towners come and we'll have a bunch of white kids teach them how to Duffy. And that was the idea of the video. And then we wrote a rap all about Newport Beach, and then finally in the last verse we brought it to the house. And anyway, it went super famous. It was actually the reason the house got sold. The house sold for in the $30 million range, and it was a direct correlation to someone seeing the video. Someone shared it with their uncle who saw it and was like, holy cow, this is awesome, I need to go see the house. And so the viral marketing, crazy, stupid idea of just getting as many eyes on something as possible ended up working.
Well, and it's funny because we actually talk about on this podcast all the time how so much of what we produce is actually, it's not, the aim is not to sell the house. I mean, we're trying to sell the realtor, right? And so, but occasionally, I mean, I will admit that occasionally, I've had so many agents over the years say, oh man, I did a video, they saw the video and they called and they bought the house. I mean, it doesn't happen that often, but it does happen. So,
and I would say, honestly, with the way we do it, the track record, Tim has now become dependent on my creative abilities to come up with interesting ways to tell stories in a house, now that it's part of his marketing pitch on anything bigger than probably $5 million listing. He's like, oh, and we'll do a lifestyle film. And then everyone's like, oh, can you do something like the Duffy? And Tim's like, everyone wants the viral video that gets, I don't know how many million views. And so that's kind of part of the pitch. So I've become this like indispensable part of their business, which is,
that's what you want, right? Yeah. Well, so now did you, so after it went viral, did you up your rate?
No.
For Tim?
No, I mean, so the one thing, even before the Duffy video, Tim and I ended up becoming good friends. Tim found me through a couple other guys who were trying to get in with him, some other younger filmers who were trying to get in with him who knew me. And I just happened to have had lunch with those guys the same day Tim turned them down. And so they're like, oh, have you heard of Tim Smith? And would you want to do real estate? And they asked me if I had done anything like that before. And I was like, no, I haven't done anything, but I had done some big lifestyle commercials for like high-rise condos and new hotel developments and things like that. And so I said, well, I've done a lot of stuff like this, which is kind of real estate based. And so they were like, oh, we'll send it to Tim and just see what he says. And so they sent a couple of videos to Tim, and within like 5 minutes, I got a call back and they're like, can you come in and meet us? And I was like, well, I don't really care all that much about real estate. But sure, why not? And so I went in and said, this is kind of what I do. And I wasn't hunting for the business. But Tim and I connected on a creative level, on a personal level, and it just kind of went from there. And I don't think, honestly, I think maybe after the first year, he was like, bump up your rate like 20%. But other than that, it's already a good rate. I think for anyone in real estate, it's probably like, people are like, okay, well, that's plenty.
Well, can we talk about that a little more? I mean, because obviously when you're watching these videos, the production value is there. Right. And so are you doing this? It's not just you walking around with a Ronin gimbal or is it?
So yes and no. So just, I usually go in, there's some that I've done fully myself. And then the max amount of crew I'll have is I'll usually have 2 assistants. So I'll have someone pulling focus for me because I use red cameras and I use cine lenses because that's just what I have in my arsenal. It's overkill for real estate, but it really works well. Especially for the stuff I do, the red cameras, if we're just going to sidebar that for a second, but red really works well for me because of the dynamic range that it gives me. The most important part, and I think one of the biggest mistakes for young shooters, especially doing real estate, is their exposure is always all over the map. And the indoor outdoor exposure settings where you can't see outside the windows is a big problem, and an even bigger problem when it's a $20 million listing and you see the ocean there. And if you don't expose properly or don't have the right tools, or you're not lighting the interior to see that, then you're failing completely at selling the property, because people are spending the 10 million out of the 20 million or the 50 million you're buying is the land and the view. So if you're not showing that view, so I use those kind of cameras because it actually does really help to have that 16 stops of dynamic range, where in post I'm able to do that. So that works out well for me, but for the most part, I think it's overkill for a lot of people.
Well, yeah. And I mean, we're up in Ventura. And so we don't, they're not quite that level. And obviously, Montecito's right here too. But we no one wants to, and I don't know if you can ballpark what the budgets that you're getting for these for us. But, the typical real estate videographer does not have those type of budgets. And so, we don't have access to the red camera to have that dynamic range. So our stopgap is we actually just bought a bunch of iPhone 15 Pro Maxes, because the stuff I've been seeing out of there, the dynamic range is way better than our Canon stuff that, just our kind of, $1,000 bodies. Yeah.
And the interesting thing about where that's going is, for a lot of the stuff, that's great. The other cheap tool, if you don't want to buy, spend $30,000 on a camera setup with, is buying like a 1200D, like a $2,000 light from Aperture, where you could throw that thing into the ceiling in any room and it brings up your stop. Couple stops, and then you get your exposure. So, I mean, I'll always travel around, no matter if I'm doing just an architectural video or a lifestyle video, I always got a couple lights in there. And I think that's the most important thing. It's like that extra step where you got to set up a light. And a lot of the time I'll just throw it into the ceiling, but the extra, call it 10 minutes, 7 minutes per room it would take me to move that light and place it there. It adds that value. And whether you're using harsh light that's coming across a table or hitting a wall or something like that, it just adds that extra value. So that's another way to do it as well. And I think
and I think, and obviously that's on the super luxury homes, because on our average ones where, I want my shooters to not spend more than an hour on site shooting the video. It's just can't happen. And most houses, you don't need the view to come in quite
that's
that
right.
hard, so.
Yeah. And that's right. And a lot of the time you can have slightly overexposed windows and things like that, if you're just showing off, especially when you're looking out to a street that no one really cares about and you're just more selling that. The other trick I've always done is, if I can't match that exposure, I'll always shoot a version of it where it is exposed properly, or I'll do an insert shot of the window or something like that, that you can see out and do that, and doing that. So, as far as, I think we were on budgets.
Yes. Let's get back to that, because I know everyone is actually going to be curious about that.
Yeah. So I would say the range is from anything. I think maybe the most expensive real estate video I've done, which isn't nearly as expensive as they should be. I think we probably spent maybe 25 grand, which is a lot of money, but it's not, when you're selling a $40 million home, it's really not that much for an agent to do that, where that, will usually include like a hosted tour, an architectural, and some kind of lifestyle video. But really the price comes in is when you're bringing in talent. Talent's expensive. And I don't know how many times you can ask your friends and family to come be in videos to do it for a couple $100 until you start running out of people to use. And then you have to use an agency. And like these days, for a half day, I think we're paying $700-800 per talent, just to bring people into the house. So you have a dinner party, and all of a sudden you're already spent $5,000 without even thinking. So that's kind of the problem with that, and where the budget definitely comes up. And then as far as my crew goes, usually if it's something big, like I just did a really amazing one that we're just finishing. I wish I could share some stuff with you. It's really cool. But we did like a 1950s kind of throwback, and we did a bunch of motion control and things like that, and had some fun with it. And So we brought in my crew. I had 2 guys. I had a grip, so someone helped me move a couple lights around. I had a first AC who was pulling focus for me, because obviously when you're using cine lenses, autofocus just doesn't cut it, and especially when you're trying to tell the audience where to look and not just having something wandering and pointing, you need to do that. And then I just had hair and makeup, and then we hired a stylist. So that was our crew.
Yeah, well, no, and that's worth it. And I think getting back to the talent thing, I mean, I think we've all done that. You have to throw in your friend or whatever. But then whenever we've had actual professional models come in and work on our stuff, the difference is astounding. I mean, if you have an agency that knows what they're doing, you know, or that actually has standards. I mean, when these people come and like you realize, I think from the outside, like acting and modeling looks so easy. It's like, oh, what do these people get paid just to stand around? And it's like, man, no, they are on it, and they know how to be on camera. They do exactly what you tell them to do, and they do it repeatedly. I mean, it's like, it's a night and day difference. I mean, it's so worth the money if you can find professional models to be in it.
Yeah, and absolutely. And I think it really serves, and Tim's a great example who didn't really do a lot of this stuff to the scale we did before. It serves as a calling card. Like, yeah, it might cost you $6,000 to do something for an agent to do something even simple lifestyle or whatever. But the amount of times that Tim has reused that footage and reels and things like that, it pays for itself. And it also sets a standard for his agency amongst other groups, as far as the quality of stuff that they provide, the quality of service that they provide. So yeah, I mean, I know a lot of agents. I have agents who are friends, and they're like, I'm not paying more than like $600 to do a tour with video and photos.
Welcome to my clients.
Right.
My client list. Yeah. Well, okay. But I do want to ask though, for any time, because I think these kind of 10, 20, $30 million estates are, you know, just the way things are going, they're popping up in more places. They're not just in Southern California. They're not just in Manhattan.
Right.
When you're talking about that video that you're doing for $25,000, what exactly are the deliverables? Because I did hear you say, oh, you get the guided tour, you get the architecture, you get this. So what are you delivering to Tim for those kind of things?
Yeah, so it really depends on what they're asking for. But a lot of the time for a big $20 million listing, or where we're kind of pulling out all the bells and whistles, we'll do a hosted tour with Tim. So that's him walking through the house. And
how long are those? How long is that video? Because I watched them and it seems like they're freaking long, man.
Yeah, I mean, they're big houses to get through, right? So to kind of explain before I go through, so we do the hosted tour, we do an architectural tour, and then we do the lifestyle.
What's an architectural tour?
Architectural is just nothing. It's just house.
Just a property video.
Just a property video.
Right.
We call it I call it an architectural, but
well, you're fancy. You're fancy.
Yeah, right. And then so then just depending on the house, we'll usually provide all 3 of those. And the bigger listings, that's kind of are the deliverables. And then maybe there's some social media cut downs and things like that. So that's kind of it. We'll probably end up doing that over 2 days. So we'll shoot the hosted tour and the architectural, or and then the next day we'll have all our B-roll and everything we need for the house. And then we'll bring the talent in and spend a half a day or a day shooting talent, and then going from there.
Well, and I did notice that those the guided tours by Tim are like 5, 6, 7 minutes long, right? I mean, those are. I mean, that's and
it's a lot, and it's just a lot to get through. And then usually their in-house marketing will work together and write the script. But then Tim and I will usually. I mean, the one thing about Tim, I think a lot of agents and things see Tim and they're like, oh, I could do that. Tim is like a naturally gifted person on camera. Like he can act, he's funny, he's engaging, he can just talk off the cuff, and he can get up and give a commencement speech at a university without even thinking about it. Like, he's just that talented of a communicator that it makes my job really easy and makes what we do look really, really good and polished, because he's that polished of a presenter. So a lot of the time we can get through even shooting that big architectural hosted tour with him. We could probably do it. I don't think we book more than 2 hours each time to get through the whole thing with him. Like, we fly. Like,
he can hit his marks, in other words. He
hits his marks. And then if it gets really complicated with some of the other agents in his group, we'll bring a teleprompter. We'll just set it up on tripod, and we'll have a nice script ready for them, and they read it, and we just go from there. So
I mean, and that's the thing is, I mean, I just feel like most whenever we've done on camera with realtors, I mean, even the charismatic ones are not usually very good at all.
No,
and it's problematic. And I think, and I know I've had plenty of agents over the last, 7-8 years, and especially we're not in the exact same market, but it's relatively close, who email me one of those videos and be like, oh yeah, I want to do one like this. I was like, well, okay. Yeah. And then and then they get on camera, and then you get them, okay, well, we'll get you on camera. You can introduce the house for 20 seconds. And they're like, hi, my name is, she's like, okay, this is not going to work. This is just not going to work.
Yeah, it's problematic. And that's where teleprompter kind of came in, because Tim has a bunch of other agents that work for him. And there's a couple that are decent on camera, but none of them are like Tim. And so we go, okay, how do we translate this and give them something like that? So we'll usually set up a teleprompter with a script that they can read, so they're not stumbling over the words. And then we don't let them walk through the house. We're like, here, we're going to set you up in the living room. You're going to talk to camera, read this, and read it at a good pace. And then the other thing is we'll kind of stay on camera for them as little as possible. And then we'll have them read it as a voiceover and go from there.
And that's basically how I've always done it, except we never have the budgets for the teleprompter. Now, of course, I could just use an iPad, but I personally haven't been out shooting. And I feel like we did a lot of on camera agent stuff 6-7 years ago when we first started really doing, or 7-8 years ago when we first started doing real estate video. And then it kind of died and went away. And now, of course, in the last 2 years, I would say there's just been a resurgence of agent on camera stuff. But still, in my market, we're not getting that many requests for it. So, but I also think we need to find the right client and then do it for them. And then once it gets out there, people are going to start, wanting to do it. So.
Yeah. And kind of the kind of hierarchy of priorities for Tim is, so the splash video we kind of call is like the lifestyle video. That one, I don't care if we don't show all the rooms. I don't care if we don't show this and that, right? It's like, hey, get people interested to click on the website. Then they can look at the photos, the details. And then once they're like, hey, honey, come on over to the computer, look at this house. Then they watch the 6-minute tour video with Tim walking them through, and they watch the architectural video. So basically the lifestyle stuff, or the funny comedic stuff, or the really stylized stuff we do, it's just an attention grabber to get people to click on the link and go check out the house, or go check out the Smith Group. And then, like you said, actually, it's really advertising the Smith Group. In the end, is it selling the house? Yeah, sometimes it sells the house, but it's selling it to other people who are like, I want that for my house, because that agent's going above and beyond.
No, and we've said it on here a million times at this point, but our metric of success is not whether the house sells, is whether the agent gets another listing. Right. Because like if that's a $10 million listing and you're having trouble selling it, we'll just put it for $9 million, then it's going to sell. So any agent can do that, but can any agent get the next listing? Right. So,
sure. Yeah.
And that's what it's all about. And then creatively, does Tim have any, I mean, he just kind of lets you go at it?
I mean, pretty much. So, I mean, there's been times like even we did, I did 2 videos for him this year where we did something super funny and super awesome. And a lot of the time the homeowners, they don't really, they just kind of trust him to do it, but then they've seen these videos and they're like, we're not doing that. And so we just never posted the video, and we kind of just shake our heads at them, but in the end, they kind of get the final say. So I'd say there's been a few times, I'd say maybe 4, 5, 6 times where, no, I'd call it about 5. I call it 5. And just randomly 2 times have happened this year where we've done something kind of outlandish or ridiculous, and the homeowners are like, nah,
well, you don't get it. But you don't clear it. Because I guess sometimes when you pitch an idea, they can squash it immediately, or if you've already done it, it's more of ask for forgiveness rather than permission.
Yeah, for sure. And so, with those kind of things, it's interesting with Tim. I mean, we just kind of have a relationship where we don't care. I mean, some other agents would probably freak out, and we're just like,
because they just spent $10,000 on this video. They can't use it.
And the one we didn't spend any money on, but I think someone had this idea to do. It was this like magical house inside of a garden, and it was like this. It felt like a story tale. So we had Tim reading Sleeping Beauty. And then we cut away to him playing all the characters and so he played the Wicked Witch, and he played the King, and he played Sleeping Beauty, and he went down again. We were like, we thought it was like the funniest thing we've ever seen. Like everyone inside the group, we were dying laughing, and everyone thought it was the best thing. And the homeowner took their home too seriously that they're like, we can't have this in our home. And so eventually we'll release it just for fun when it sells. But there's, just things like that, which are great ideas, which would probably go viral and get, the difference between like a plain normal video, even just a plain lifestyle video, and then something that we do that has an element of comedy or action or something like that. The engagement is like quadruple the amount as far as interaction on whether on social media or whatever it ends up being. So these are always, and this is why they always want to continually do these things. And I'm running out of ideas at this point, but,
hey, welcome to podcasting life. I'm out.
Exactly.
Well,
right.
Okay. So you just mentioned social media. So that reminds me, we have a format on this damn show. So we're going to take a little break here, and then we're going to come back. We'll have our social media sidebar, and then we're going to come back with Chris. He's going to talk a little bit about what he's going to be doing at PMRE this year. And then, you know what? I've already talked about it with this guy. He's got an action item. This is a man of action. So we are going to end with our action items. So we'll be right back. Aereo. Hey, you know what? Aereo still hanging around, still being the flagship sponsor for this podcast. And we have been so grateful to have our partnership with Aereo. And one of the reasons we love Aereo so much is we love using Aereo. And so it makes it really easy. I mean, the hardest thing about these ads is that I got to pick one thing to talk about Aereo, because there's 1,000 amazing things about Aereo. And I'm going to hammer home again today how wonderful scheduling has been on Aereo. Our clients are loving the new scheduling. Chelsea, more importantly, let's face it, that's the most important person to love the scheduling. And she is loving scheduling everything through Aereo. It makes it super simple, super easy to change, when appointments change. And it's very clear for our shooters and for the bosses, me and Mark. It's very clear for us too. I mean, it's just a win. So go to aereo.com. That's ARYEO.com. And you can use the code Upmarket, and you're going to get 15 free bonus listings if you're a new user. I implore you to check out Aereo. It's so great. All right, I've got some, we all know I have problems, but, I did announce on this podcast a few months ago that I got a giant back tattoo of a floor plan. And, well, I finally looked at it, because on my back, I can't really see it. But I finally got the mirror out and then I took a picture and I realized there's a couple mistakes. The tattoo artist, they labeled the primary bedroom, the master bedroom, which I know a lot of people still use that term, but at Upmarket, we use primary bedroom and bathroom. And then they got the location of my stripper pole in the wrong place. So these are two changes that I'm going to have to make to this tattoo. And it is going to be an expensive and painful and long process to make those changes. But you know what? If there's a mistake, if you've ever made a mistake or one appears in like a second floor app, floor plan that you've made from Second Floor app, changing that is super simple, unlike a tattoo. So if you check out secondfloorapp.com, you're going to see that Second Floor is one of the easiest, best, and most accurate ways to make a floor plan in minutes from your phone. And you're able to deliver those floor plans so quickly to your clients. It's a wonderful upcharge. And the thing is, all those floor plans are super editable, super easy. You're not going to have the problem that I'm having of having to get lasers and re-inked, and oh man, it's just what a nightmare I'm going through right now. So go to secondfloorapp.com/upmarket, and you're going to get a free month of service. You're going to be able to make a ton of floor plans and make a ton of changes to those floor plans if you need to, but you're probably not, because Second Floor app is going to get it right the first time, most likely. secondfloorapp.com/upmarket. All right, social media sidebar. Come on, man. You know where we are. We're Upmarket Pod across all social media. And also, we are on wherever you find podcasts. Wherever you're listening to this, you can subscribe, you can rate, you can give us 5 stars. Chris, Stacey, I know you've subscribed to Upmarket Pod. I know you've 5 stars already. I mean, if you haven't
100%.
rated us, you're waiting to have this experience. You know it's a 5-star experience. You know the type of experience that Upmarket Pod gives to our listeners. So follow us. Go to our YouTube channel, Upmarket Pod. Chris, where can we find you online?
Instagram on Stacey Films. That's probably the best. That's where kind of I post all my work. I don't post a lot. I think, but you can find me on Stacey Films. That's probably the best place to find me.
Right. But you're not the rank and file, real estate video person. So you're not just churning out all this, we're doing 20 videos a week or something. And so we'll always have stuff to post, but you're just not doing that. So you're not really cultivating business or really putting your stuff out there on socials.
No, I don't. It's funny. I've never done that. I've always, my business has always been referral for me. I've never had to do any type of advertising or anything like that. I'm now finally building a website after all these years.
Hey, congratulations.
Thank you. It's catching up, but I think, maybe I post online, even on my Instagram, probably once every 5 months. Like I just have a problem with it. I just don't feel, I don't know why. I either feel like I'm bragging when I do it, or I don't feel like it's worth posting. And I think I just come from that old school and I haven't been hungry enough where I need to go like I'm doing a social media marketing campaign to do things. Work's always just been there, which is pretty snobbish to say, but it's true. I've been really lucky where
it's just it's just the reality.
Yeah. But I'm very boutiquey as well. Like for real estate, I've had a million people approach me and other agents, but I decided I'm only going to work with Tim. But it's like, why work with, like I've had the Oppenheimers and I went in and did stuff with, the only thing I had some friends with, the Searhand Group, and I went in and did a big commercial for them in New York. They flew me out and we shot a really cool commercial for them. And then basically they were starting their video division. They learned everything they could from me, and then they never wanted to call me again. So it's fine. They called Cody Boone, who Cody's my buddy. So that's who. Cody knew me, and Cody was like, yo, Cody. And Cody was like, we need Chris to come in. And then I was like, hey, Cody, I'll come in and do this. And so I kind of taught Cody a bunch. So now Cody's just taken off.
You're the brains behind Cody. Okay, I got it. Thank you for that. That's perfect.
Yeah, there you go. So I feel slightly responsible for Cody. I remember
he was on this podcast. He didn't shout you out.
Little son of a bitch. That's
All right. Well, let's end with that. Cody Boone, you know who you are. You know what you are.
You little SOB. No, but Cody's great. I mean, I think he's a really, really talented guy. He was really young when he came up, and he would.
He's still really young, by the way.
He still is really young, and he'd always hit me up and ask me what I was doing and this and that. And I remember when he got offered the job in New York, he asked me if I should take it, and I was like, absolutely. So I haven't been like a huge mentor to him, but I feel like I definitely inspired his trajectory of where to go. And I think he's done fantastic with what he's done. And he does a really, really good job. So yeah,
absolutely. Well, you get to follow him at PMRE. So we're going to come back. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. We'll just take a quick break. You know what? Let's talk for a second about iGUIDE. iGUIDE, not only are they an amazing partner to have on these Road to PMRE episodes, but they are one of the most trusted and well-known and best options in the 3D space, the 3D tour space. And what they're really excited about, and I am too, is their quick capture system with the Planix Pro camera and iGUIDE Instant, where you're going to be able to go around, make that in 15 minutes or so, probably scan an entire property and have that 3D tour ready to go. And also, one of the great things about iGUIDE is that you pay per project. There's no onerous giant monthly fee. So it's really, you're not spending money for services that you're not using. I mean, that's something I love. So go check out iGUIDE. And also, if you are going to go to PMRE, I know iGUIDE is doing a lunch and learn. I think spaces are running out on that. So when you register for PMRE, get in there. You can have a free a nice lunch on iGUIDE. Wow, iGUIDE, they're just so generous. They're doing all these giveaways. They're giving out a free lunch. You can get in there and you can learn all about iGUIDE, learn how it can enhance your business and make you more money. So check out goiguide.com/PMRE to get entered in the giveaway. But at Go iGUIDE, you're going to be able to check out all the stuff that iGUIDE can bring to you and your business. Check it out. All right, we're still talking here with Chris Stacey and Chris Lamont. This is a Road to PMRE episode, so we got to talk some PMRE. You are going to be on stage and you're going to be doing a workshop. But I've heard a rumor, and I don't know, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I've heard a rumor that you're actually going to try to get Tim to be out here and be on stage with you. Is this correct?
Yes. I've told Tim I'm only doing it if he's doing it. So, yeah. So I think I'm going to drag Tim out to Vegas. We'll probably drive out together or fly out together or do something like that. And he said he would do it. And so I'm just holding him to it. So, yeah.
All right. Wow. So, yeah, I've heard it's like, okay, well, I've heard a little more than that. I've heard maybe it's like a fireside chat between you and Tim, kind of about the kind of creator client relationship.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good way to look at it. And then we'll probably go down some deep rabbit holes about where we're going and what we're planning on doing. But yeah, I think that's probably a really good way to do it is client relations, how him and I got connected, how creatively we work together, pitching ideas, and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, I think it's a good fireside chat for all these guys to sit and listen to, because Tim is one of the most successful agents. I make some okay videos for him, and we'll just chat about the process and how we do it. And hopefully people can take that and apply that to what they're doing. And I think the takeaway I'd hope people would come away from that is like, there's more that you could do than just your typical house video, right? There's more things you can pitch. There's better ways to do things. There's more creative ways to do things. And I think that's how you grow a business, is you kind of got to think, how can I go and do the things that other people in my job are not willing to do, right? I think you're that 1%, right? It's like, how do I be 1% better than everyone else, right?
Right.
And so what can I
if you're
offer
a PMRE,
that's different?
You're already on the road to do that, you know? So
yeah, exactly. You're here to learn, you want to learn, and yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think, and it's important to have context too, right? Because you're just not going to come in and be like, well, you know, for these $30 million listings, I mean, it's really, you have to apply it to, you know, to everyone, right? To someone in Iowa, say, you know?
Yeah. And that's where it comes down. I think the next day will be the workshop where I'll,
so you are doing a workshop. Yeah.
I'm going to do a workshop. My hopes and dreams of the workshop is that we're going to rent an Airbnb or some mansion or something like that, somewhere outside of the Strip. And we're going to go there. I think the beginning part of the day, I want to do a talk about exposure and camera movement and things like this and lighting. And then the second half of the day, I thought, which would be really interesting for people, because I think so many people screw it up, is working with talent. So we're going to bring in some talent and we're going to work with them. We're going to talk about how to lens talent properly. Because I think the biggest mistake, I'm already giving one away, but I think the biggest mistake so many of these guys make is they have their 12 mil Laowa or whatever, 14 mil, and they think they can do a lifestyle film on that. And they just run around with the big wide lens throughout the house. It's like, hey, let's look at what different focal lengths do and, you know, tell the story. If we pull back to here, what does this tell? And so, and then, I think that's kind of that day. And then we'll probably talk creative stuff. And then I think there might be a little follow-up thing that we're doing where we'll take the footage we did and maybe I'll do a little bit of a color workshop and resolve or something. It's like, how do you pull that out now of your footage? How do you bring down those windows, or how do you do this? What's a power window, and how do you do that kind of stuff? And so I think we'll do a little like post workshop on coloring, because I think that's another important thing that people probably don't do a lot of. They probably throw like a Rec 709 LUT on and then call it a day, which is fine for a lot of things. But like, hey, I think people are here to learn and they want to be able to up their game. And so we're going to give them the steps to to kind of do that, and I'll show you exactly how I do it. And I don't mind telling everyone my secrets, and because they're not secrets, it's like, hey, here's what I do, and you can apply that to what you do. And that's what we're.
Well, that's the nice thing is, I mean, you're comfy in what you're doing. You're not looking for more real estate business. So you're not incentivized to keep anything close to the vest, you know? No. And you know what, if it wasn't for good mentors and people kind of teaching me along the way when I was younger, I wouldn't be where I was. So I think one of the most important things we can do as the elders in the industry, when so many guys are younger, and I still feel like I'm young as a cinematographer because the people I look up to are much older than me and are still teaching me, but is handing down that information and passing down what I've learned and being able to teach other people. And I think that's just good karma to be able to give it back. So yeah, I mean, I'll be happy. We're going to bring a bunch of different cameras. We'll bring the iPhone. We'll look at a Red camera. We'll look at a Canon, and we'll like, hey, let's look at all these things and see what each one does. And we'll kind of compare them and say, this is the value you get out of this. This is what this one does. And maybe we'll find out that I should have been shooting on an iPhone all along. We'll find out. But I think it's fun to experiment and see what different lenses do, what different cameras do, what different exposures do, and then play with lighting. Like if I wanted to bring one light around a whole house, let's figure out how to do that, and what does that do, and how does that elevate what we're doing. Right. So I think it'll be a fun workshop. Right. I'm guessing that by the time this podcast even comes out, that workshop will be sold out. So we hopefully not, hopefully not, because I don't give a shit about any of that stuff, but I almost want to go now. So that's how good that actually sounded. So not that I don't give a shit, but I'm just not a technician, and so I'm not shooting video. So, but I think that sounds super valuable. And although, man, I just don't want to carry around a light, but you know,
right. I mean, a lot of people do. Yeah,
but like you said, but like you said, though, it's a differentiator, and it's like, and if you have a business model where you do want to hit that luxury market and hit it in a way that no one else is doing, I mean, that's going to set you apart without a doubt. And like you're saying, if it only takes you, if it's say you got 10 rooms in the house and it takes you 5 to 7 to set up the room, it takes an extra hour, and then it's a $2,000 light, but you can charge $3,000 a video instead of 1,000, you know, whatever it is. Right.
Yeah, exactly. And it always scales up that way. And it's the same kind of thing as what you guys should be thinking about when you're shooting, is like, you're not thinking, how do I sell this home? Is how do I sell myself to the next realtor that I get the next job? So the videos you're creating are really your calling cards. So sure, go around and do a house in an hour. That's fine. But like, take your time and do something proper. And I guarantee you'll probably get more work out of it in the end. If you spend an extra 45 minutes in the house or whatever it ends up being, right? Is like, that's my biggest thing. And I think why I've been successful is I just don't want to put my name on anything that's shit. So whether I'm going to do a tiny house or a stupid cooking commercial or whatever it ends up being that I have no interest in, or I'm never going to post on my reel, I know someone might see it. And so I'm always going to do, give 120% on that job, because you're only as good as your last piece of work. So, yeah, well, I kind of, my mantra is, I guess we'll put our name on it as long as it's good enough for real estate. I mean, that's the thing, right? And that's like, it's kind of this yin and yang of this industry. I think we, in an upmarket, we've really been looking at scaling our business by doing volume. And I think that's like probably the vast majority of our industry is volume. Yeah. And when there's volume, and unfortunately it's good enough for real estate, and that's as good as it can get, because we're shooting, it's just it's like there is a space for this luxury product, and I think there's a space even for people who aren't as busy, and there's so many ways to scale your business, and part of it is like, you can say, hey, I know I just want to be low volume, and like you're the perfect example, right? But you're not even out there, you just have one client, and so I mean, that's in a way you're in real estate, than anyone else is. But hey, just have one brokerage that you work with, and just charge them a premium, and that sets them apart from anyone else. So there's no one way to do this. And I think we get in the trap in this podcast and with our business of really just being about the volume side. And in a way, we let go of that luxury side. So I think it's nice to kind of hear this other perspective. And I think there's two ways to grow a business. And that's one way. And people always ask me to scale. They were like, you want to scale? Do you want to grow this business and do everyone in Orange County? Because every agent in Orange County, if I called them and said, hey, I'm opening up to do your videos, I'd probably steal a lot of people's work. And I just didn't want to do that. So for me, and not just in real estate, I was like, I'm just going to charge more each time until someone says they're not going to pay it. And that's how I upscaled. And so it's just a different way. It's like mass, or you just, you're probably we're probably spending the same amount of time making videos and probably maybe making close to the same amount of money, except I do one video and you have to do 15. I don't know, whatever it is.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, but I think it also goes back to, it was kind of the first thing you said when we started the podcast today was like, oh, I do a little bit of real estate, but man, I really enjoy it. I enjoy the filming. I enjoy having the ideas. I enjoy real estate. Yeah. And I think then that's what I always tell people too, is like, find what you enjoy. I don't enjoy that. So I don't do that. So I much more enjoy kind of growing the business and having a team that can do the work, and like having a team that I can rely on and that I can be there for, and to have, and cause it's a lonely life otherwise. And so that's one of my pain points is I wanted people around. But it just sounds like you have that passion. So then that makes sense, because if you wanted to scale your business the other way, then all of a sudden you're not out there being creative anymore. You're just going to manage a team. Yeah. And that's all you're going to do.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I've done in my thought process is I probably do 2 movies a year now, where I'm gone for 3 months at a time. So that's half my year gone. So when I'm scaling, I needed the ability, and I've got one full-time guy who works for me as an editor because I'm just sick of editing. But I just, I need the ability to be able to leave and go do other things. So if I'm constantly managing like 10 different shooters or whatever it ends up being, I just don't, to be able to leave for 3 months and go focus solely on a project where you can't do anything but think about that project would be impossible. So I've kind of chose to be a little more boutique and have the freedom, just kind of do what I want and grow the business that way. And it's been great.
So does Tim have a B team that he uses when you're off shooting a movie?
So I have, I've trained Jake Austin, who is my full-time guy here, and he works for Tim, and he's solely basically Tim's guy. So he'll cut most of the films, color them, and he's kind of come up under me for the last year and a half or whatever. And so when I'm not here, he'll do all the hosted tours. Now he'll do all the architectural or just the property tours. And then if it's a lifestyle thing, I'll do that. And that's kind of how we've got it going, to be able to accommodate all the stuff that Tim and the Smith Group needs, including their podcast that we have. This is the studio here. We've got like a 3,000 square foot studio with a site wall where we do podcasts and we do their market updates and all that kind of stuff. So that's just, I have that. So it's just open and available for the Smith Group. They can use it whenever they want. And we just have this great back and forth relationship where, I get to play luxury lifestyle with Tim, and he gets to have fancy films. So,
yeah, well, all of that stuff, I think, to me, takes action. And so I think that means it's time for our action items. And our action items today are sponsored by Pixel CRM, the only CRM that is made by a real estate photographer for real estate media professionals. It is such an amazing way to streamline your business, make it more efficient, be able to upsell more, track your clients, track invoice. I mean, they're so powerful. There's so many things going on with it. Get in there, go to pixelcrm.com. That's pixlcrm.com. And I would, just book a tour through what they can do. Book a call with Pete Stegel, who is the owner of Pixel CRM, and he's going to walk you through and show you all the amazing stuff that Pixel CRM can do. We heartily endorse it. pixelcrm.com. I'm going to go first because I have a super boring one. So I think Chris is going to have a really good one. So I'm going to really think about it when you do yours. I'll try to draw out my action item so that you definitely have a great one. So actually mine it's very simple, very basic. And this is something, Chris, I don't think you need to do, but I think most other people should fill out their Google business profile if they haven't done it. Or if you have your Google business profile, go in there and just make sure everything is right. Maybe you want to zhuzh it up a little bit. But I think it's, we always want to be doing an audit of kind of how we're being presented to our clients, and in a Google search and in the Google My Business thing, that is a way a lot of people are getting the first impression of your business. So you want to make sure that you can go in there and just make sure all the information is correct. And that you are, I don't think there's a lot of room for storytelling in there, but it's just part of that overall story of who you are, what your brand is, and what you do. So make sure you get in there and make it right.
I've never even looked at mine, so I'm going to probably go do that because I just probably should for the sake of doing that. So yeah. Okay, so no, that speaks to me. That's like, I'm convicted. I'm like,
perfect. Okay, good.
Preacher. I think for me, my action item is go do something out of the box. Go, whether it's learn a new skill set that you wouldn't do before, try something new, spend a little more time doing something, and not get outside of the norm of what you do in real estate, photography, or video, and just try something new. And I think that's the only way you're going to grow. A lot of guys get stuck in the same motion of I can go through this house in an hour and a half and fly through it. And I know what I do. I got my 12 mil lens and my RS3 Pro, and I fly through and I get done and I get paid. And that's fun. But like, what does that do to you as a creative? What does it do? It doesn't help you grow. So do something to help you grow, whether it's, sit down and watch a course on color correcting on YouTube and do that so you understand color science a bit better. Try bringing a talent in, try swapping lenses, and as opposed to a wide lens pushing through a house, go back through the front door and do a long lens, and just try something new and experiment and try to grow. I think that's probably my action call is, step outside your box and go do something fun. And go do something to help you grow. So there you go. I
think you named about 30 action items in there. So thank you.
There's too many.
Yeah, that's fine. Well, that's fine. You just got them. You got to throw down. So how much more action items are you going to get if you are at PMRE November 13th through 15th and are going to be watching Chris on stage talking? I think there's going to be a lot of wisdom, and check out his workshop if you can, if there's still space available. Chris, thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to hanging out with you in person in Las Vegas.
Absolutely. And, I hate Vegas, but I'm excited to be there.
Well, you're gonna love PMRE. It's pretty damn fun. So and it'll be chill at the Palms. So all right, Chris, thank you so much, and we'll see you in a few months.
All right, guys.
And thank you to our listeners. I always remember to thank our listeners at the end of every show. So thank you, everybody. Thanks for listening. Upmarket is a production of Upmarket Studios. This episode was produced by Chelsea Froelich and edited by Bethany Diedrich. Thank you so much for listening, and we really hope you listen to the next one too. In the meantime, our wish for you is to not have to shoot any Friday night Twilight shoots. Thank you for everything.